will try and get your hand swung. No problem. No problem.
There is one
Say Dejan. Say Dejan.
There's one extension per frame, and it is your time is added on to what you have previously, so it isn't just 45. You've got 10 seconds now. So it's 55. So it's added on, and it will be on the clock. Good luck, everybody. Yeah, ready to go, you like.
Gentlemen, please like.
Two new players on the scene for me. Well, not new players on the scene by any stretch of the imagination, but two players that I've certainly not seen play pool before. On the left-hand side is Dejan Grech. I'm sure that some of you may not know Dejan, but he's travelled over here from Malta. And I believe, I could be wrong, I will check my information, but I believe that he is Maltese #1. I'll just check that actually. Yeah, so twice Team European champion under 23s. 3 times national champion at under 23s, 2 times under 18 national champion, and he's won around 30 ranking events in Malta. He is 20 years old. In contrast, the man in the opposite corner is Jamie Burnett. Any of you familiar with the snooker scene? Jamie was a pro for some 19 years. Made his mark in 1997 in the German Open by reaching the quarterfinals, and he equalled his best run the following year in the 1998 Grand Prix. In the 97-98 season, which was dominated by Hendry, he claimed victories over Stephen Hendry. 2 victories, actually, as well as wins over Stephen Lee and Mark Williams. And then he was professional until, I think, around 2012, when I think he just lost a bit of focus and probably lost his enjoyment of the game. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2012 he stayed pro. Ranked for a lot of years in the top 40. Finished the 2011-2012 season ranked number 39. But he slipped out of the professional status and kind of fell out of love with the game a little bit. And he turned his attention to pool, which is to our benefit. He now plies his trade around the Motherwell area. Originally comes from Hamilton, and he is 43 years old. So a contrast in players, one 23 years older than the other. So those are the players. It's Dejan that won the lag and got us underway. But it's Jamie at the table. I'm still catching my breath from that Darren McVicker win against Liam Dunster. I think Darren played that one down a little bit, but in all honesty, that has to rank up there and amongst some of the best wins in his career. When he first came onto the into the interview room, he mentioned how nervous he was during the game, but goodness me, he didn't look nervous. Some of the pots he pulled off, when you expect nerves to play a part, those longer testing pots, he just nailed them one after another. There was only one moment at 10, I think it was 10-6 up where, sorry, maybe even 10, was it? No, 10-6 up where he'd missed that pot, that yellow, opening yellow into the top corner. That was the only time he showed any kind of sign. What a great win for him, and we wish him the greatest of success for the rest of the tournament. Wow. That one did the proverbial, wiped its feet. Jamie Burnett makes it. And he opens his account 1-0. Games also happening around the arena. All of the results you can have a look on qscore.com. In fact, Lee Clough, interestingly, won that Hill game against Wayne Fryer. I think he was behind for the whole of that match. He was either behind or level. The only time he went ahead was the winning frame to go 11-10. He was behind for the whole of the match. So what a performance there from Lee Clough, as we know and expect from him. Sean Story fighting, but he's still 8-5 down against Rob Warne. Sean Chipperfield somehow has beaten Ben Rowland 11 frames to 8. I think Ben Rowland was something like 6-2 up. I think it was 5-1 and then 6-2 up. But those sparkling shoes of Ben Rowland will be walking their way into the losers section. Sean Chipperfield progresses. John Rose 7-3 up against Cameron Dunlop. Brian Halcrow 6 each with Gareth Hibbert. Jez Graham 9-7 against Arfin Dad. A good showing here from the boys from the southwest. John McAllister 7-3 against Chris Day. Jack Whelan on the hill against Dave Fernandez 10 frames to 7. Now listen to this for a result. Richard Gifford 11. Greg Batten 3. Greg Batten fairly brushed aside by Rich Gifford. What a win that is for him. Greg Batten seemed to be coming into form during last week's IPA, but wow, he's lost that one 11-3. Steve Petty now 7-0 up against Ryan Clark. People questioned Steve Petty and how he would perform in this event. 7-0 against a very capable Ryan Clark. Jake McCartney 5-4 up against Sam Bircher. And Tom Cousins, Josh Kane locked up at 6 frames each. Callum Singleton back in action. He's 2-0 down against Jimmy Croxton. And Scott Gillespie is playing Mountchid Omar, and they are currently 3 each. And I'll tell you something now, Mountchid Omar, he had some great results last year, and he is a very, very... I think, in fact, one of the events last year, he beat Mark Boyle. Very adept player, and he's going to give Scott Gillespie a hard ride. Okay, so now we can turn our attentions to this interesting game between Jamie Burnett and Dejan Grech. Jamie at the table from the break. He still has balls tied up at the top of the table. He will be looking to leave an angle on the one over the middle to go up and attack that little cluster at the top. This looks okay. Left a nice angle. Couldn't do much more with the yellow in the way. Just needed to do enough to get past the yellow. So it looks like he's judged the pace of this table really well, early doors. decided he had a better angle on the red to top left, and that's a pretty good shot. But he's going to have to take this one now. Balls over pockets do not do you any favours in this rule set. He needs to slow down, yeah, and he's okay. He's got a shot. Tough, but for a ex-professional snooker player, not much more than a black off the spot, slightly hampered cueing. It's the kind of things that you would expect him to be potting. Looks like he's going to go for the little thin cut into the corner. To be honest, I think I fancied him more for the bottom corner. And I guess maybe you were slightly worried about the cue ball. It did seem to be tracking towards that middle bag. So now we get our first real look at Dejan Grech, and he's immediately had a kick. You can see from his reaction, the cue ball literally just stopped dead. He played that with a bit of topspin, and that's a few of them now. These little kind of mid-pace shots that they play with a touch of top. That's probably about the third kick that we've seen. Would have been in his mouth just for a second. If he'd have stuck on that yellow, he wouldn't have had a shot. As it is, he's okay. We got our first real look at this young 20-year-old. Cue ball just got away from him fractionally. Won't matter. He's absolutely fine. Very nice. Good clearance. Referee calls frame, and indeed it's one apiece. Jack Whelan now is through 11-7 against Dave Fernandez. Carl O'Donoghue's through 11-2 against Paul Kelly. Jimmy Croxton now 3-0 up on Callum Singleton.
Frame 3, Dejan Grech to break, 1 frame all. Time running. Foul. Yellow balls in play.
So as Jamie goes about his clearance, I just managed to catch Jack Whelan as he's walking through, commandeered him into the commentary. How you doing, Jack? Just off the back of a good win there.
Yeah, I had a good win then against Dave Fernandez, yeah.
You were tied up at about, I think it was 6-all, wasn't it? So you've obviously had a good second half of the game.
Yeah, it was 6-all, and he had half a chance at 6-all and made a, well, I don't know if it was a mistake. He had first visit anyway. I dry broke. I managed to go 7-6 up, and then it went to 10-6 from there, from the break. I think the ball sort of like went against him.
Yeah.
From he obviously had half a chance. Then he dry broke, I cleared, I broke and cleared. Then he dry broke again and I cleared. So I sort of won the match from that one mistake at 6-all.
Yep. So a bit about what you've been doing recently. I mean, you're just on a rich vein of form at the moment. I mean, World Championship back in, what was it, 2014? 2015. Yeah. And probably fair to say that the last couple of years probably not performed back at that kind of level. A few little results here and there, but this last month or so, you have just absolutely hit the ground running. That event down at Spenny's seemed to kind of kick-start it all, winning the £500 a man against a tough field, and then moving up into Murphy's last week and winning that event up there against, I mean, you just bulldozed the whole field in the winner's side, didn't you?
Yeah.
What's changed?
Well, I practiced hard from like January. I spoke to my wife and I said, like, I want to have a good crack at it one more year, and if I don't start winning stuff, then I'm going to pack up, because, like, obviously I work as well, and I was not having time to practice, and I was being lazy really. It's not I didn't have time. I weren't making time to practice. So I was basically just turning up to tournaments, hoping I was going to get a few results, and I was getting a few results now and again, but
not consistently.
No, and I says to her, I want to practice hard really, and try and get back to something like at least creditable. Do you know what I mean? And go to tournaments expecting to have a good run. And I practiced hard going into the World Championships in February. And although I lost to Dave, I didn't know him in the last 16. I felt, and I did make a mistake as well against him in the last set, but I felt like I played good, and I was really disappointed when I lost to him. But I managed to win the doubles with Lee Clough, and that sort of like, although it's only a doubles tournament, obviously it's the biggest doubles tournament.
Yeah.
But it was more to prove that, I know obviously I was with a partner, but I could still win.
It's just to get back in that winning mentality, isn't it? To know you're still capable of doing it.
Yeah, and then obviously I went back home the next day, and I was back on the practice table the next day and played for the next week. Went up to Spenny's, won that tournament, carried on playing, went to Murphy's, and won that event. Then carried on practicing still, and had the IPA last weekend, and I lost in the last 16 to Tom Cousins.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like, I made a lot of mistakes, and anybody that was watching, or Tom would tell you himself, like, I just basically gave him the match. It was one of them games where I just...
The thing is, you can't... I mean, you're not a machine at the end of the day. You're only human. You're going to always have games, but as long as generally you're escalating, and you're on the up, and your game's obviously kind of flourishing again, it's great to see it.
Yeah, when I come off the table, I says to my wife when I spoke to her, I said, I'm just knackered. I've had that, like, although I'm going to work in the week and I play at the weekends, because I've been running deep in the weekends, I'm playing a lot of matches, whereas last year I wasn't playing a lot of matches, because I was getting bumped out. So it was one of them where it definitely did catch up with me. And then on the Sunday, I got to the semi-finals of the Pro. I lost to Dean Shields, And same sort of thing happened again. I sort of like crashed a little bit, but I've had a good week's practice this week with Lakin. Played 2 sessions with him. The other 2 sessions I played on my own this week and played up to today. And yeah, I've got 2 good results so far today, and pleased with the way it's going so far. Yeah.
Looking forward to a good weekend. Of course, talking about Lakin, is he in action tonight or is it tomorrow?
Yeah, no. I think it's tonight. When I spoke to him on Wednesday, he said it was Friday night he was playing. So
I think it is. Yeah.
I know he's playing Michael Tomlinson, a good player, but
I think Michael Tomlinson was another player had a good showing at Murphy's that weekend for that English Open. So I don't know much about him as a player, but I looked at some of the results he picked up that week, and I thought he's going to be a formidable opponent for Craig.
Yeah, I think he's had a couple of good results. I played him, I think, 2 Murphy's tournaments ago, the first actual tournament before the series started. I played him in that, and he played well against me there, but it was really late at night. But yeah, he had a couple of good results last week. He beat Mark Farnsworth in, and obviously to beat him in any tournament at any time, anywhere really, is a really good result, because obviously one of the best players in the world. So yeah, he's obviously on a roll and he fancies beating Lakin, but obviously the way that Lakin is, he also can beat anybody as well on his day.
Yeah. I mean, from your perspective, I mean, you mentioned that tiredness is obviously playing a factor. You're a working man. You work through the week and you try and get in practice, try and get in some time for your wife as well. Trying to kind of balance all those things is difficult, isn't it? It's and now there's so many tournaments. It's difficult not to want to play every weekend, because there's a juicy tournament every weekend. You know, you think, I mean, you've got all the ones coming up. Murphy's, there's always ones. The IPA have got the Champions Cup as well, Champions League. It's just game after game. The Town Shootout, which is great success as well. This event, there's so many premier events now. It's difficult not to want to play every week. And of course, there's always money matches looming as well, because you've always been inherently involved in money matches. Anything planned there, or not really? Just focusing on tournament?
No, not really. Obviously, I played Tom Cousins in that King of the Hill tournament, and that's sort of like a money match sort of based event. But no, I'm not really interested in them, to be honest. Like I sort of, if the game was right, I'd play, but I'm more than happy just to go about what I'm doing, and you know what I mean. Like I go to work and then I go and practice a couple of hours a night, or I try and get 2 hours a night in the week, and then I don't really play the weekend because I'm at events. This is the 5th weekend on the trot I've been away.
That's crazy.
And I've got a tournament next weekend in Leicester.
So how do you find that kind of work-life balance? It's trying to strike while the iron's hot, while you're playing well, but not kind of overcrowd it. Just try and focus on the good stuff, isn't it? It must be difficult.
Yeah, it's tough, but obviously you've just got to get on with it, and we know what it's about. You know what I mean? Although the money is getting better in pool.
Yeah.
So far, there isn't really a player that can, apart from the obvious 2, that can actually make money out the game full time.
Yeah.
So the only option for me, obviously, with having a house and stuff, is to work. And if I get results, I get results, and if I don't, then I'll still be at work on Monday.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just about. I think it's taking that kind of pragmatic approach about it and saying, do you know what, I'm never going to be like 100% because I can't give it 100%. So as long as my 90% is good enough, and I know I'm going to win tournaments, I know I'm going to win events, but until you take that dive and say, right, I'm going to go full time, and the money's in the game to be able to do that, to make that jump.
Yeah. Well, I think it was more when I started playing this year, I fully put everything into playing, and although I was at work, I was playing as well. So I gave myself every opportunity when I was going to an event that I knew I had put the time in.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way that I've always said it is, the more that you play, is the more you deserve to win.
Yeah, yeah.
If you just turn up at weekends and expect to win, then obviously, unless you're very, very lucky or very, very, very talented, then you can't keep on doing that.
There's that old saying, isn't there, that the harder I practice, the luckier I get.
Definitely.
And it's very much that. It's
and the last 6 weeks, I've had, like, don't get me wrong, since I won the world doubles with Lee, since then I have been getting rolls, and people have been missing balls against me in important times. And but you've got to take it while you can, because look, I've had 2 years of them not missing them balls and them not taking every chance. And so it's not nice when you're going home every weekend and the lads at work are saying, "Oh, how'd you get on this weekend?" "Oh, last 16, last 32." And so, but now they're all watching me and they all know what I'm doing, and 'cause obviously they can see that I'm running deep in events, and it's good for me as well, because it's not like, well, it's not embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? Because when you just, but they understood that I was working a lot of hours. But now they say like, "Oh, you're doing tonight?" I'm just going to go for practice for a few hours, and so they know I've been putting the time in, and everybody can see that I've been putting the time in, because the way I'm playing, I feel confident, and you can see when I walk around the table the way
100%
compared to, like, I'm not sort of scared of playing.
Yeah, no, I've sort of followed you, watched you play. I watch the IPA all the time. I watch more, Paul, than is humanly natural.
Yeah.
I watch you play a lot, and you can definitely tell that the swag is back.
Yeah,
you know, that kind of swag had just maybe disappeared. For a year or so there, and it's great to see it back. You've got that confidence where you know you own that table. You're the daddy, and they've got to come and beat you.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
isn't it?
and obviously when you're confident, people can see it in you as well.
Yeah.
And obviously it puts a little bit, not so much fear, but they might think if I miss this, then I'm going to lose.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to do. You need to, like, sort of bully your opponents into making mistakes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jack, do you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've probably kept you longer than you wanted to be here, but thanks so much for jumping in. It's such a pleasure to be able to get an insight into what it's like playing at the top of the game, and always a pleasure to talk to you, mate. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
I'll let you go. See you
Cheers,
again soon.
mate.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Jack. All the best, mate. So apologies that we probably just ignored this game, or just stepped away from the game. I just let the game do its own talking, because it's always a pleasure to get someone like Jack Whelan into the commentary and just, as I say, get an insight into his ascendancy. I mean, that guy is playing out of his skin lately, and it's great to see him with his swag back and at the top of the game. So the scoreline now is 4-1 to Jamie Burnett against Dejan Grech, and we will firmly focus on this game for the remainder. As I say, I apologise, but really make no apologies, because it's always a pleasure to get someone like Jack Whelan in for a little interview. So in just a couple of seconds, we'll have a quick look around the rest of the arena to find out a little update on the scores. Someone questioning how Liam Dunster did. Liam Dunster lost 11-7 to Darren McVicker, so he now is across into the loser's side. Malcolm Ryder just giving us an update on that Craig Lakin, Michael Tomlinson game. Lakin's currently 10-5 up. Yeah, I had him as favourite going into that game. I did get offered a bet prior to the game. But, I don't know that much about Michael Tomlinson, so I decided to steer clear because I wasn't sure. I felt that Lakin was probably the favourite given his experience. So, quick virtual tour of the arena. John Rowe beat Cameron Dunlop 11-3.
Frame 6.
Brian Halcrow 9-7 down
4 frames to 1.
to Gareth Hibbert. Jez Graham's beaten Arf and Dad. That really is a good win. And up the Plymouth boys. Indeed, they are putting on a good showing so far. John McAllister 9-5 against Chris Day. Jack Whelan, as we heard, beat a solid win against Dave Fernandez at 11-7. Rich Gifford, we know, beat Greg Batten 11-3. Steve Petty has beaten Ryan Clark 11-1. This guy means business this weekend. Jake McCartney beating a very good Sam Bircher, currently 8 frames to 4. Now Tom Cousins has turned that game around. Josh Kane was ahead, but Tom Cousins has beaten him 11-7. That result's just gone through. And earlier on, Dom Cooney beat Adam Penwell 11-2. Carl Donahue beat Paul Kelly 11-2. Jimmy Croxton beat is beating Callum Singleton 4-2. And Manchid Omar is currently 5-4 up against Scott Gillespie. So a very good showing there from Adam Penwell. I'm sure he's very proud of himself for putting those 2 frames on the board against Dom Cooney. Another good week for Adam, so congratulations to him. That's probably 2 more frames than he would have expected. Yeah, Paul's absolutely thrilled that he picked up Adam in the Calcutta. And if any of you thinking that I'm being called Adam Penwell, then listen back to the commentary that I did with him earlier on when he spent the whole 2 hours trying to stitch me up. He's going to get it this weekend. I hope you're listening, Penwell, because you are going to get it. What a great shot. Just his only difficult ball was that black. Well, I say the only difficult ball, there is one more. The yellow with the red over the pocket, but that looks absolutely plumb. If you can't land on it, it looks plumb for a combination shot slash skill shot. Yellow onto red and drop them both in. Looks like he's going to try and land on it. And he does. Obviously, skill shot or combination shot is generally a last resort. And quite rightly, Jamie trying to land on that yellow. Probably just under hit that one by a couple of inches, but a little bit tricky now. I think he can still pot it and just kill the cue ball off the top cushion. Just come down middle of the table. Yeah, obviously he couldn't, so he played to just run into the yellows to try hold the ball that way. But he forgot to make the pot, and he's handed over a gilt-edged opportunity for Dejan to half this lead.
frame. Frame 7, Dejan Grech to break, trailing 4 frames to 2. Time running.
So sorry about the air silence for a minute. We just had to sit and enjoy Adam Penwell telling us his bad beat stories from his match. He couldn't just admit to being absolutely rubbish. He had to talk us through the entire lot and tell us how unlucky he was, when actually we know he's just pretty crap. There you are. I make no apologies. I wouldn't normally slate someone, but with Adam, he's just fair game. The cabbage.
Touching ball.
So touching ball on the red means that he can just run off the side rail. Oh, he's underhit that one. Want to be tight in behind the red. Not that it matters. Obviously still an open table. Yeah, Ballant asking if this is the Jamie that you know from snooker. It certainly is. It's Jamie was a professional snooker player for some 19 years.
Balls in play.
That's some shot, mind. Pretty sure he's played that as well. An uphill battle to clear the table from here, but he does have a ball next to the black that passes into right middle. Must have noticed.
Time running.
Oh, thought for a second that he'd noticed a chalk mark on the ball. Certainly the referee gave him a timeout, so not quite sure what happened there. And this break isn't getting any easier. You can hear him blowing his lips. What do you do now? Well, All he's got is hampered queuing for a plant to top right.
Yellow balls in play.
Dejan not really settled yet. Not particularly getting the run of the ball either. That combination doesn't help.
10 seconds.
Again, talking about running the ball, there's another one that just gets away. Really dug into that to come off the cushion and come back out and try and develop the difficult yellow. Again, had a bit of a touch there, nudging that yellow down onto the bottom rail. Closes the route through for that red and gives Dejan another headache. Great effort. Wow. Maybe just done enough. Well, I say just done enough. I mean, not sure he's got a next ball unless this red does pass. He's having a close look at it now. He may just be able to borrow a bit of the pocket and just drop it in towards the top lip. It's one of those, I think he's just going to have to play it slow. Yep, just goes in off the knuckle. So he's maybe just done enough with nudging that yellow to the side, open up the red. So it's just about dropping this one in to leave himself the right angle on this red. I mean, if it was my preference, I would have rather run that through a few more inches and just been able to screw straight back up the table. I think it adds another degree of difficulty when you've got to judge where on the cushion you've got to hit it. Yeah, and that was the danger for me, that it was going to come too wide. As it is, he missed the pot, but I mean, he would have had a shot, but only because he cannoned the black. I think that ball was going to snooker him, otherwise just come too wide. So I was surprised he left the angle. It made that shot much more difficult, leaving the angle he did. If he'd have left it straight in, I feel he could have screwed back to kind of round about where the bottom of the white line is, and had the line of sight to the pot, so he could have just screwed in a direct line back. Nice developing shot there from Jamie. Cannons the red, cannons the yellow off the bottom cushion out into the open. Makes life easier for himself now. Cannons a black out, but now just left it a tiny bit tricky. Bit of a thin cut back into middle. You expect him to get, and I was going to say it's all about the cannon then. Actually, he's come out perfectly. Burnett thinks that the side pockets are bigger than on an American pool table. They're actually not. They're just cut differently. All of these pockets are substantially smaller than you'll find on any American pool table. Most American pool tables are cut to 4¼ 4.5 inches. The pockets, they're just not cut square, they're cut rounded. So it's just different, really. The balls don't go in as easily as they do up the rails on an American pool table. But as I say, it's just about the way they're cut. They're cut on the angle to accept the ball from more acute. I mean, you can definitely play shots on these tables that you could never play on an American table, but vice versa. You can play shots on the American table up the rails with confidence that you could never play on these tables. If you see the long shots up the rails, the players tend to try to move them off the rails, whereas in the American format of the game, you would never try to move those balls because they're virtual gimmies. Especially if a table's playing big like they do, for example, the Moscone Cup. You know, you can hit a couple of diamonds up the table and still make the ball, whereas you could never do that on these tables.
Frame 8, Jamie Burnett to break. Leading.
But then it's a different game. It's like comparing apples with oranges. Yes, they're both cue sports, but very, very different games. Different balls, different size balls. These balls are just a fraction under 2 inches. I think I'm right in saying that. I think they're 1.95, somewhere around about that kind of mark, rather than the heavier 2.5 inch balls that they use in China and America. This is a 7 foot by 4 foot table, as you would call, in America, you would call a bar box. There are variations on this theme. You can get a 6 by 3, you can also get an 8 by 4, and I have in fact seen 9 by 5s used in the English version, but they're very few and far between. The brand that you see in front of you is probably the premier brand. Well, it's definitely the premier brand. It's the Supreme Winner table. The standard would be 7 by 4, but they make them in 6 by 3 and 8 by 4, I think it is as well. So it's always interesting to have newcomers to the stream, and certainly interesting to get people from the different backgrounds, from different countries, who are unused to watching this English 8-ball. I know a lot of the Americans prefer the numbered spots and stripes, but these are the reds and yellows, synonymous with what we find in just about every pub and bar in the UK. And definitely our preference of ball. Lovely, reactive, especially on this wonderful, super fine cloth that's brought to you by Strachan. It really is one of the premier cloths on the market now. Fast, responsive, and a player's dream. Many of the players, the feedback is that this cloth is the bee's knees. So, another look across the room. We see Gareth Hibbert's through against Brian Halcrow, 11-7. We see that John McAllister's 9-7 up against Chris Day.
Dejan Grech to break, trailing 6 frames to 2. Time running.
What a win that was from Steve Petty, by the way. 11-1 against Ryan Clark. Jake McCartney's on the hill against Sam Bircher. I told you Jake McCartney means business this weekend. He was an absolute steal in the Calcutta. I think he went for about 300 quid. And the lucky Australian guy who bought him, I think he's on to a winner this weekend. Jake McCartney playing a very skillful Sam Bircher and beating him 10-5. We know Tom Cousins is through in a tough game against Josh Kane that he was behind in. Callum Singleton's turned things around. He was 3-0 down against Jimmy Croxton. He's now winning 5 frames to 4. And Scott Gillespie has got a game on his hands against the very talented Mounted Omar. They are locked at 6 frames each. We watch all those games with interest. The losers' side games are just getting underway. Kevin George currently 2-0 up against Craig Marsh. Craig Marsh at risk of going out of the tournament if he doesn't turn things around against Kevin George. Not a happy hunting ground for Craig Marsh so far. Adam Davis is just starting off against Amin Bounif, another Moroccan player. Neil Wren, Shane Thompson getting underway. Tony Halpin, Clint Azzopardi getting underway. Ben Flack just starting against Danny Lees. Liam Dunster is back in action on the losers' side after losing to Darren McVicker, and he's playing Scott Crawley. Sanjay Patel, Alexander Dunlop just about to start, so all those games we'll keep an eye on. So Dejan with a problem. Oh, so close to that double.
Yellow ball's in play.
But he's just opened up the table again for Jamie. I'm sure not the performance that Dejan was looking for so far. Lovely developing shot. It was a fairly natural angle, but played it at a great pace, and that was the key to the frame. Playing that just made everything else really simple. Now he can just play into an area and have a choice. There you go. Got a choice of the yellow to bottom corner or the one into the middle. And it's just a question of personal taste now. I think bottom corner first would be my choice. And then right centre, left centre, off the cushion, back out to around about where the cue ball is now for the black in the right corner. Tell he was the snooker pro, can't you? That cue action, that lovely pulse he's got on the backswing. And it's a fairly easy life at the moment for Jamie Burnett. He's now 7-2 up. We just cast our eyes quickly to tomorrow morning's games. We're in action from 11 o'clock tomorrow morning in that winners round 2, and there are some really good games. that round is shaping up quite nicely. So we're going to have Rob Chilton against Lee Clough, Gary Clark against Neil Raybone, Mark Boyle. So Darren McVicker gets, as his prize for beating Liam Dunster, he gets another really tough Scotsman in Mark Boyle. Alex Bailey against Orrin Hughes. Lydon De Bono against Declan Brennan. Ronan McCarthy against Carl Boys. Phil Harrison against Jordan Shepherd. What a game. Ryan Pisani against Rob Warren. Liam White against Sean Chipperfield. John Rowe against Gareth Hibbert. Jez Graham will play the winner of John McAllister and Chris Day. Jack Whelan will play Richard Gifford. Steve Petty will play the winner of this game. Tom Cousins
Frame 10.
will play the winner of Sam Bircher and Jake McCartney. Looks like it's going to be Jake McCartney.
Time running.
Carl Donahue against Dom Cooney. And then the winner of Jimmy Croxton and Callum Singleton will play the winner of Scott Gillespie and Mounchid Omar. So that's winners round 2 tomorrow morning. There's something wrong in the universe if Phil Harrison versus Jordan Shepherd doesn't make it onto the arena table at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And if I wake up tomorrow morning and find that game's not on, I'm staying in bed.
Red ball's in play.
Yeah, Balance saying that it's very different playing with this cue ball. Absolutely. Having played on the American 9-ball tables and played even more so on these tables, it's a complete different reaction. You can do so much more with these balls, and actually you can play this game quite proficiently with either a 10mm tip or a 7mm tip, interestingly. A 7mm tip was going to give you a lot more reaction. It's just about what you get used to, whereas you could not possibly play the American version of the game with a 7mm tip. Probably the average is around about a 12. Because what you're not looking at doing, in this game, you're looking at leaving small angles, the ball quite often leave it straight, because you can use a lot of side on the ball and maneuver it around much easier, whereas with the 9-ball, the bigger ball, you're using the weight of the ball. You use much more subtle side. You very often see kind of deep draw, deep screw shots, which you will see in this game, because the ball's much more reactive on these cloths. The bigger game, you use the weight of the ball, you use the momentum, and you tend to leave wide angles, so you can just let the cue ball run around the table. Very, very different game, incomparable. They look similar because you're using a cue ball to knock balls in, but they're very, very dissimilar. And you have to be way more accurate on these tables than you do on the American.
Trailing 8 frames to 2. Time running.
It requires a whole different cue action. The cue action in this is very much more in the style of the snooker player. That you know, a classic pool player will use a very, very similar style to a snooker player. In fact, you'll see Jamie Burnett, who was a snooker pro, using that very traditional cue action, which you would never see from any of the 9-ball players, who use a much more loopy action, almost like they're kind of sawing wood. That loopy action designed to impart much more spin onto the cue ball. You're always playing, I mean, in this game, you're attempting every shot to play the cue ball dead centre. In the ideal game, every shot you will just play dead centre. Now you play side when you need to,
Yellow balls in play.
but ideally you should always want to be playing dead centre, maybe apart from the ones up the rail when you impart a little bit of side to try and help them in the pocket. Whereas in the American version of the game, you're looking to impart side onto the ball and then transfer it onto the object ball in every single shot. Who was the player who invented the TOR, the TOR rule, the kind of touch of right? I think it's a touch of right on every single shot to help it into the bag. This is really impressive stuff from Jamie. I know I've not been fully focused on commentating on the game, but watching it whilst discussing the broader game, this guy has definitely not come to make up the numbers. He is a class player and a feature of this weekend for sure. But then you can't have a career when you've been at the top of the game of snooker for the best part of 19, 20 years and not have all the fundamentals. Touch of inside, that's right, zombies ate my pizza. Who was it though? I can't remember the guy's name. I know that Efren Reyes was a big advocate of it, but I don't think he was the guy that actually introduced it, was he? Yeah, I mean, talking about stance in the game, it's part of the fundamental, isn't it? It's about having that solid base to play from. Very, very few mistakes here from Jamie. He's just going about his business. Leading 8-2, and this black to go 9 frames to 2. It's interesting to see there's a lot of movement through his head as he's cueing the ball, isn't there? I've noticed this a couple of times now. As he feathers the ball, you see that kind of just slight lift of his head. We'll have another look at that when he comes back to the table in a minute, but you can see that movement that is very unusual. CJ Wiley, yeah, now CJ Wiley, wasn't he the same guy? Am I right in thinking that CJ Wiley used to manage the Moscone team back in the early days? I could be wrong. Well, while we were focusing on the player there, he's just missed a pot that he should have been getting. Yeah, CJ, pretty sure he didn't he manage the American Moscone team back in the day? Or is my memory really fading me nowadays? Yeah, well, there's a ball you expected him to get a bit closer to. Where that black's gone, it's just offered Dejan. Well, he's got breathing room, hasn't he? It doesn't matter if he misses a ball. You don't expect him to miss from here, but if he does miss, it really doesn't matter because that black's welded to the top cushion. Simple enough clearance, but did well. And he pulls back the lead to 5 frames. It's now 8-3.
12th frame. Jamie Burnett to break, leading 8 frames to 3. Time running.
Put that Miss Black behind him. He's still got a comfortable lead, but breaks dry and gives Dejan another chance. Yellows look really good here. Kind of dot-to-dot clearance, really. You can just maneuver the ball down the table, take out the top 2 balls, and then just work his way down. Doesn't really have to do too much. It's just pretty much a series of drop-ins. Again, a young man, only 20 years old, but he's got a good solid stance, a nice cue action, nice delivery, nice pulls on the backswing. Another ball.
Balls in play.
That was a clearance. It was a must-make clearance to have any kind of chance in this game. And now Jamie is going to make him suffer. Just try and get that ball in hand. I mean, with this rule, with the ball in hand anywhere on the table, I would have thought he would have maybe tried to move one of those balls out into the open. The middle bag is right in the way of the angle, so he's going to have to come off 2 cushions, bottom and side. Makes a good hit, but he's going to be in more trouble in a second. Again, now Jamie with the opportunity to move a couple of those balls off the side rail and still leave the trap. Again, feel he could have probably done more just to try and get both of those out into the open. Giving Dejan a chance to get lucky. Nothing more now than just lay another snooker. Promote another ball into the centre of the table. And another 1 cushion escape. And every time he comes to the table, he's giving Dejan a chance to get lucky. Decided to take the more difficult 2 cushion escape. The 1 cushion escape didn't really afford any opportunities to pot that yellow. Coming up from behind it was far more favourable, but in doing so, he's moved the 1 difficult ball that Jamie had on the cushion, and now has just opened the frame with ball in hand anywhere on the table. This is very much in Jamie's hands. Probably going to leave the red closest to the cue ball now to his last ball, unless he runs into a touch of trouble. Well, he's not got an ideal angle on any of the balls at the top of the table, so he's going to take it now. I think had he been a little bit further across, he'd have probably left that till last. But like they say, more than one way to skin a cat. plenty of routes around this table. None of them were wrong. Very nice again. So Jamie would be fairly unknown on the snooker on the pool scene to a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people going to be watching at home now thinking that he may well feature this weekend. Solid contender. Went for very little money in the Calcutta. But yes, Dejan is just making life easy for Jamie. But it's not always easy. It's not always easy to come out on these main arena tables. He's travelled across. He's just a young man. And he would have fancied putting in a good shift here. But it's just not happened for him. And we do see it time and time again. It's just one of those things. Can't always perform at the top of the game. So please don't forget, anyone watching, if you fancy your chances for the remainder of the series, then we are taking single entries. Event 2 starts on the 24th. I think it's the 24th or 25th. No, 24th of May. So if you're free that weekend and you fancy your chances against these players, then please do come and join us. You'll have a chance at winning the top prize, which will be in the region of 5,000. It's guaranteed, pretty much guaranteed at 5,000 due to the amount of runners. But obviously, as we get single entries, that could, excuse me, that could easily go up.
Yellow balls in play.
John McAllister on the hill against Chris Day at 10-9. Jake McCartney still on the hill against Sam Bircher. He was 10-5, it's now 10-7. Sam Bircher mounting a comeback. Callum Singleton now 8-6 up against Jimmy Croxton. He was 3-0 down in that game. Scott Gillespie has been in a fight against Manchid Omar, but he's 8-7 ahead now, just got that one lead. On the loser's side, Craig Marsh has woken up. He was 2-0 down, but he now leads 4-2 against Kevin George. Amin Bunif is now 3-2 up against Adam Davis. Could be a shock on the cards there. Neil Wren, Shane Thompson, 1 each. Clint Azzopardi has opened his account 1-0 against Tony Halpin. Sadly, Jake Dylan Newlove couldn't make it this weekend. Ben Flack 2-0 up against Dan Eaton-Leese. Liam Dunster 1-0 against Scott Crawley. Sanjay Patel 2-1 against Alex Dunlop. Game still to get underway. Mark Asprey and Drew Hughes waiting for a free table. So this will be the last streamed game of the day, as all the losers' side games are already underway. We come back to the action at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, where I think the streamed game... Oh no, this is unlucky. That's really unfortunate. The stream game is going to be between the main arena game, I believe. Still going to make a final decision on it, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Phil Harrison against Jordan Shepherd. That's going to be a great game. Dejan's not been without his chances in this match. Just not been able to take them. Take Lion, single entry into an event is 300.
Frame.
£300, and it pays, well, this event, 76 runners pays 24, so a third of the field getting paid. With 5,000 going to the eventual winner. Sheppy will be out for revenge. Beaten by Phil Harrison in the English Open over at Murphy's just the week before last. 11 frames to 3. And Sheppy just didn't look at the races in that match. Didn't really get the run of the ball either, but quickly let that one get away from him. You just can't do that against someone like Phil Harrison. You have to just be on it constantly. And Sheppy would have put that behind him. He won't let it get into his head. He'll be looking for revenge. So we look forward to that game. So 9-4. Jamie just coming back, took a quick bathroom break, steps back into the arena. He's going to be breaking frame number 14.
To break, leading 9 frames to 4. Time running.
Black is in. The referee will have to do it all over again. No penalty, just a re-rack. Oh, in fact, no, it's not. Sorry, Supreme rules. The black goes back on the spot. I have to remember these things. Do you know, I think that's one of the first times I've actually commentated on a game where the black's gone in, which is quite unusual because you normally get them quite often. But yeah, black on the spot, of course. That's a rule that I really like, actually. Really like. Why does it need to be a re-rack? Black back on the spot with no penalty. It's just a waste of time going through the re-rack.
Yellow balls in play.
Horrible, isn't it? I mean, when it's just not rolling for you, it is just not rolling for you. Every little kiss is just going wrong, going awry. And, well, anywhere but there, wasn't it? Anywhere but there, he would have had a shot.
Time running.
Trying
Balls in play.
to play a containing shot. All he's really done is open the table for Jamie. I think this red passes a yellow.
Time out.
Just asking the ref
Time running.
to get the long stuff out. And as a snooker player, playing with the rest will hold no fears. Yeah, I controlled it really well. Stunned off the side rail. Pool players don't tend to be quite so adept as snooker players using the rest. The rest. They, I mean, it's not that often. I'm 6'5", and I've never had to use a rest on a pool table that I can ever remember. taller players, I mean, it's a 7'4" table, so you can tend to reach over and get most things. You can maneuver in some way to get at the shot. Some of the short players will obviously need to use the rest now and again, but it's just, it doesn't come naturally in the same way as it does for snooker players. He's got a lot of feathering, hasn't he? A lot of feathering, especially when he's got a slightly trickier shot. You almost feel that he almost puts pressure on himself by taking that extra time with those extra feathers. Like that shot is just feathered 4 or 5 times. The more difficult one up the rail, he feathered like 15 times. Whereas if you watch a player like Liam Dunster, he has the same approach each time. 5 or 6 feathers, same every single time. No, I wish I could still play snooker. My eyes are so bad now that I can't see the potting angle over a distance. So I've started wearing glasses recently, but they don't help me on a pool table. I really struggle to play in glasses. Anyway, Jamie Burnett goes on the hill.
Frame.
10 frames to 4. And this has been a bit of a cakewalk for him. Just too many mistakes from Dejan. Great to see him though, great to see him entering the event, and we hope that he finds his form throughout the rest of the series. Yeah, I like the rule of respotting the black. Simply, if you go dry, then you know the incoming player. You know, why should it be broken again? The incoming player is just broken dry, so the incoming player comes into an open table, as he would have done if you just went dry. And obviously, if you pot a couple of balls and the black goes in off, you shouldn't be penalised. So the black comes back up, and then you just carry on with the rest of your break. So no penalty. I like it. I think it's a lot more sensible rule.
15th frame, Dejan Grech to break, trailing 10 frames to 4, time running.
Nicely timed break. Now this is one of those rare occasions where he can open his account with a plant, because it's a 3-ball plant. Yellow onto red, onto yellow. He's going to have to play it with some pace because he needs that yellow to come out. Yeah, he played it well, played it thin.
Yellow balls in play.
And that's not a bad result. It could have been worse. At the same time, so he's just nudged the red out of the way. Those 3 balls have tied each other up, but I think, oh well, another mistake. I was just about to say that if he can land on the top one of them, it kind of opens up the other 2, but he missed the pot, and as it happens, he didn't get anything like good position. So this just hasn't gone his way, has it? Pressure there for the young man, playing under the lights, in front of the cameras. Played as a combo shot, so a legal shot, similarly to the rule in black ball. Again, a lot of people argue that that should be call shot, but absolutely impossible. Wow, look at that. There's the touch. Not what was intended. Bit of a fluke. Yeah, it's impossible to play call shot unless you have numbered balls. Because if you're careening into 3 or 4 balls, who's going to monitor the one that you nominated, and if that's the one that went in? You have to have numbered balls, and then, well, you may as well be playing American pool on an American table. Because the whole point of the identity of this game is the reds and yellows. Well, he does have a pot. That was a little bit lax from Jamie. I think he's probably sized up Dejan and said, go on, mate, have a go. I'm 10-4 up. But Dejan not falling for it. He says, I'll have a go when I'm ready to. No. I think he's tried to play the double, play the red off the bottom cushion and off the yellow
Foul.
in the middle,
Ball in hand.
but had a bit of a howler. I think he's probably just switched off a little bit, if I'm honest. At 10-4 up, he's probably just seen the winning line and maybe switched off. So he needs to click back into gear to get over the line. But I guess he's not seen anything yet that's particularly frightened him. So these really should be unmissable. If you haven't previously done so, please do head across to Players Pool Events. There's another one. It's just flown. He raised his palm. I mean, really reactive, these cloths. Yeah, I was going to say, if you could go across to the Players Pool Events page on Facebook and give us a like, and then you'll get some notifications when we go live tomorrow. Gone for the cocked hat. Oi, close. Close. But you almost just will Jamie just to get over the line to put Dejan out of his misery in some ways. It's really not been his day. I think Paul's switched off in the same way Jamie has, I think. Just missed that shot altogether. Yeah, it's a long few days up here, I can tell you. It's a long few days, and these guys got up here on Tuesday to set things up, so there's an even longer time for them. So, Jamie Burnett to administer last rites. These last three balls, and take nothing away from him. He's put in a solid performance, just a couple of errors at the end. Well, as I say, maybe forgivably has switched off a little bit, but generally a really solid performance from him. You can only beat what's in front of you, and he does, and he goes on into the next round, and so he stays in the winners section. And we'll try and catch him for a couple of words in the interview room. But from us, that is the last game we're going to stream today. It's a bit of an early bath for us. But we'll be back in action from 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. As I say, still unconfirmed, but I'm 99% sure that we're going to open the account with Phil Harrison against Jordan Shepherd. Do not miss that game. Set your alarm clock, get up, make yourself a coffee, and get in front of the TV and join us for that. And we'll probably see you back in the interview room in just a couple of minutes. But from the commentary, it's good night. So I'm joined from the victor in that game, Jamie Burnett. How are you, Jamie?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. A little under the weather, but apart from that, I'm alright.
Well, I mean, that was a solid performance from you there. I mean, there's been probably too many mistakes from him, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and very few mistakes from you. Maybe a couple at the end. You possibly switched off a bit, but 10-4 ahead. I think you can forgive you for doing that.
Yeah. It was a bit. There was a couple of times he threw a couple of frames away. To be honest, it could have been a lot closer if he took his chances. I think that game would have been close.
Yeah.
So it let me off the hook a little bit. I broke dry a few times, and I left it there. Struggling with the break, but. I love the pool, it's great, but tactically I'm not the best. I just like to attack and go for balls, I hate playing safe or playing snookers. It really, I cringe every time I need to do it. I really don't like it. But, like you say, you can only beat what's in front of you,
That's right,
and
yeah.
I try my best all the time, and, if I win, I win, if I beat, I beat.
Yeah. So, I mean, people will obviously recognise you from the snooker scene.
A bit heavier.
Obviously transitioned into pool now and a great asset to the pool world. How are you finding it? I mean, as I say, that was a great performance, and for me, that makes you a contender this weekend.
Well, like I say, I really enjoy the pool. Some snooker players kind of, I don't mean to be disrespectful, kind of look down the pool and don't really respect it as a game, but they don't play it. These guys that sort of criticise the pool, you don't see them enter these tournaments and try to compete with Mick Hill and Matt Farnworth and Tom Cousins.
Yeah.
People like that. But I've been coming with my friend Scott Gillespie, who's a pool player. I play with Scott sometimes, a game of snooker, a game of pool, and I'm trying to sort of, I'm learning as I go. Like I say, but I enjoy it. The setup is stunning. I've been to 3 sort of major tournaments now, and the tables are perfect. The conditions are perfect.
Yeah.
So and that's all you can ask for.
So, I mean, you talked about respecting the game there. Do you afford it the same respect that you would have done with snooker, the same kind of practice, the same determination?
You have to. If you want to compete with the best players, you need to respect the game. You can't go out there and me coming from a snooker background, I might go to pot a bit, but I'm not going to compete with Mick Hill or Mark Farnsworth if I'm not playing and learning the game. You just can't do it. No snooker player could come and compete with the guys if they're not playing. So you need to learn.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned Scott Gillespie there as well. I mean, having him as a practice partner. The guy's been on fire for the last year or 18 months, and just going from strength to strength, it seems. Yeah, to be honest, I'm surprised it took him so long to sort of break through. I've known Scott for a good 10, 12 years now, and he's been playing at that level since then. Yeah. That's why I'm very surprised it took him so long, and it's not a big shock. He's one of the best players in the world. He's proved it. And he's a fantastic snooker player as well. He started off playing snooker, and I wish he'd have stuck to that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because he would have had a chance because he doesn't put a lot of time in. Scott works full time, and he doesn't get a chance. And considering he doesn't play a lot, he's doing amazing. But like I say, it's good. You got to play with guys that are better than you to learn. Sure. And having somebody like Scott there is perfect for me. Yeah. Just touching back on that game. I can't remember what I was going to ask then. It's clear gone out of my head. I had a question there, and it's clear gone out.
Just make something up.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's all good. I mean, that was, as I say, that was a solid performance, and thanks for entering the event.
Yeah,
it's great to see you down.
I love these events. I'm going to enter more of them if I can. Yeah. Try and maybe put a little bit of time in if I can. And hopefully compete with some of the.
Oh, I know what I was going to say now.
What's up?
Terrible. No, so in those kind of conditions, I mean, you're used to playing in front of the TV cameras, coming from that snooker background. Dejan, young man, he's only 20, so he's that can play a big influence as well, doesn't it? I mean, how did you find that out there in the arena? Because that's quite an intimidating arena, isn't it?
Well, like I say, it can be if you're not used to it. It doesn't really bother me, but again, it's still a pool table. It's still pool to be. I'm still learning. There's certain circumstances where I feel a wee bit, what do I do here? And we feel sort of embarrassed because I don't know the shot. Where a pool player will see it right away and say, "This is easy." Yeah. Me, we having a snooker brain, I don't see it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm under a bit of pressure that way, but. Like I say, I'm just trying to enjoy myself and just, like I say, just attack as much as I can and just see how it goes.
And the rules come fairly naturally, the Supreme rules?
This is the first time I've played them. I had a couple of frames with Scott the other night, and I was put right behind and thinking I had 2 shots. You just need to get in that frame of mind. You know what I mean? And like I say, it's a learning process, so we'll see how it goes.
Jamie, absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, mate,
best of luck for the rest of the tournament.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. So we'll be back with the action tomorrow morning from 11 o'clock, and as I say, I think it's going to be the small matter of Phil Harrison against Jordan Shepherd. Do not miss that game. Put your alarm clock on and join us. See you tomorrow.